I'm Alex Cook, and thanks for taking the time to have a look at my website. I've created this website to act as a tool for people to keep informed on events that are taking place in the global economy, and in particular how those events will impact their finances and indeed their standard of living. I've been in the financial services industry now for over 17 years, of which 14 years has been giving financial advice directly to individuals and their families. In 2005, I set up the boutique financial planning firm Arcadian Private Wealth, and due to the rapid growth, we've now expanded from our Sydney base into Melbourne and also Brisbane. We live in interesting times, to say the least, and I believe we're now sitting on the world's biggest credit bubble. Debt throughout the Western world is at unprecedented levels, both at a government level, at a household level, and indeed to an extent in the business community as well. The ramifications of this credit bubble are likely to be global in nature, and indeed we're likely to see a drop in the standard of living throughout the Western world over the next 5 to 10 years. In my home country, Australia, we're used to seeing rising prosperity, and it's sort of assumed as a given that that will continue. The most obvious way that this has occurred over the last 50 years has been through rising stock prices and rising house prices. Unfortunately, in the last 20 years, much of this growth has been due to the rise of credit. Australian households now carry 3 times as much debt as they had in 1990. So a lot of the growth in home prices and indeed the stock market has been due to the biggest credit expansion we've ever seen in history, and certainly in Australia's history. And really throughout most of the last decade, the savings rate in Australia has actually been negative, with that only having changed in the last 18 months and turning positive for the first time in a decade. And really this shows that Australians have been living beyond their means for quite some time. Unfortunately, however, this is not just an Australian problem, it's actually a global problem. And not only is it's not just households, it's also governments as well. Governments have been living beyond their means and promising more than they've been able to actually deliver. In fact, it's fair to say that many governments in the Western world, particularly in Europe and indeed elsewhere, are in fact bankrupt. And the implications of this really are going to be at some point a severe economic downturn, and I think more than likely a substantial adjustment in the standard of living of those living in the Western world. The only thing really keeping many of these countries going is this term quantitative easing, which is really just a cute word or cute terminology for money printing. The other issue that makes this problem of debt much worse is in fact the demographics of the Western world. That is, we have very weak birth rates and we have an ageing population. This combination is likely to have a further negative impact on the world economy. And lastly, you have what I call the entitlement mentality. That is, that vast numbers of people in Western countries are of the view that the government should look after them and indeed will have to provide them with a high level of support. And this, of course, is also a drag on the world economy. Sadly, though, due to this combination of debt and demographics, it's likely to end badly, and the standard of living, as I say, is likely to decline in the Western world. This website has been set up as a tool to keep people informed of these events as they take place throughout the world, but also as a bit of a warning as to what's really going on. Much of what you're told in the media is misleading. Sometimes it's skewed to the positive because of vested interests trying to convince people that everything's okay. But this is designed to give you a sort of a realistic view and assessment of what's going on in the world. It's important to say that we are not giving financial advice on this website. We're just trying to give people a bit of an indication of the implications of these global events and how it's likely to impact on an individual's financial situation. So you'll be able to follow our website through the video blog and the written blog that we've got on it, and that'll keep you up to date with these events and how they're likely to impact things, and in particular one's finances and standard of living. So thanks for visiting the website, and I look forward to having you along and following as things